Voters head to the polls in BC, Saskatchewan and New Brunswick this month. In all three provinces, at least one party has pledged to increase funding for fertility treatments. CTV's Sarah Plowman looks at the promises and what's available right now across the country.
Danielle and Dustin Howe celebrate a decade together. For 8 years, they've tried to have a baby.
I'm trying to be patient, but there's some days where it's, physically, mentally, emotionally exhausting.
The couple faces infertility. They've spent thousands on drugs, but it just led to dead ends and frustration. They're now turning to treatment, but it's costly.
We have had to remortgage our house twice, just kind of in general, hoping that costs will come down where we can afford, an IUI or IVF.
Dr. Marjorie Dixon says 1 in 6 Canadian couples experience infertility. An average in vitro fertilization cycle costs around $18,000.
And the reality is that most people will not necessarily get pregnant on their first cycle of IVF.
As provincial elections play out, there are pledges to provide more coverage. The Saskatchewan Party promises a tax credit of up to 50% or $10,000. Liberals in New Brunswick vow to cover 1 full cycle of IVF treatment, while Conservatives in BC pledge to pay for 2 cycles after the NDP set aside funding for 1 round of IVF last budget.
My hope is that policymakers are listening.
Across Canada, there's a patchwork approach. Currently, 7 provinces offer some coverage through tax credits or grants, but support varies. New Brunswick pays a maximum of up to $5,000 in a one-time grant. Ontario and Quebec fully fund a cycle of IVF, and in April, so will BC. Alberta and Saskatchewan currently offer no public funding.
When fertility benefits exist, whether you are an employer or you are a province, we know that it attracts and retains young people.
The proposals come as Canada's fertility rate dropped to an all-time low of 1.26 children per woman last year. The Howes will first try intrauterine insemination, which is less expensive, but if that doesn't work, they'll turn to in vitro fertilization, no matter who wins the election.
We're not waiting. We've been waiting 8 years. We have to move on and we have to make it work somehow.
It's not just governments advocates want to see up their funding, it's also employers. Only about half of Canada's businesses offer some fertility coverage. Heather.
Sarah, thanks.